The book is about sort of the confrontation among different kinds of people during a moment of real crisis and sort of unspecified crisis. And so it's about, I think it seems to be from a distance a disaster movie or thriller, and it is those things, but I think fundamentally it's a movie about people and their relationships with one another.
Leave the World Behind is about two families who find themselves in a situation that crumbles as the minutes pass, and it's truthfully about how they react to that and treat each other when all the things we rely upon fall away.
It's set up like a disaster thriller, so it's about this family that takes a vacation one weekend, and they get a knock at the door from a couple strangers saying there was a cyber attack in the city, and it kind of goes from there.
Leave the World Behind is based on a book of the same name, is about four people who end up trapped in a house together along with their kids when a disaster strikes outside, and it's really about how they navigate that relationship. It's unexpected that they all end up in the same house. It's complicated that they all end up in the same house, but they have to learn to rely on each other in order to survive.
It's about a cyber attack and a small group of people who are sort of left to fend for themselves and figure out if they're going to come together for their survival or continue to let things sort of tear them apart.
I believe that Leave the World Behind is about what happens to people, everyday people, amidst a crisis. It's really about the relationships. It's about how we deal with each other, how we deal with ourselves when we're under pressure, under threat.
I'd call it a thriller. It's a real kind of edge-of-the-seat type movie. Couple rents a house on Long Island, and things just start going wrong. Cells not working, and weird kind of things, and the animals are acting weird, and then a man shows up at their house and says, "We need to move back in. This is our house," and it kind of goes south from there.
Leave the World Behind is about this family who, is going out for a vacation, a little escape, and they have to face some pretty tough challenges and, kind of trust each other and keep that bond as a family and really stick together to make it through this. It's a thriller, it's a drama, it's a nail biter, I think.
It's definitely a psychological thriller as far as genre goes, but it's important. I think it's an important topical film.
Rumaan's novel is exceptional, and it is really perfect as a novel. And what Sam did is he kept so much of it the same, and he made a couple of key choices and key adjustments for cinematic adaptation, which really made the difference. So I can't speak to all of the choices that he made as well as he'd be able to, but I will say that he not only added sort of scope to it, but he also added another dimension by changing Mahershala's character, which was previously a wife, into a daughter, which allowed us to play a little bit also with generational expectations.
Ruth is really fun. She is the only millennial Gen Z aged person whose perspective we get to look into in the film, which was a brilliant change from the book. It was Sam Esmail's brilliant thought in his adaptation to bring in the perspective of a young person who's not a child and not a parent.
GH is a very practical, I would say fairly wise and sort of linear man. He's very straightforward. He's a bit of a mathematician, so to speak, and he's just somebody who's really concerned about the well-being of his family.
My character Rose, she keeps to herself, but she's also very intuitive. She's very observant and very smart. She notices a lot of what's going on, but also feels like no one listens to her, and that's kind of why she escapes into her world of Friends, the show Friends, and she's very connected to those people, and I think it helps her feel a sense of belonging.
Archie is just sort of at first an oblivious, everyday kind of teenager. But he becomes sort of a catalyst, I guess, of sorts.
I play a neighbor. I have a small part. at the end of the movie, and he's a guy who they go to for help. There's some issues with the family, and people are getting sick, and they think he's a guy that's going to have resources and have ideas about what may be happening, you know, what the reason is that everything is getting weird.
Julia Roberts is a producer on the movie. So, and Julia and Sam had, of course, worked together before on Homeland, and they'd always wanted to collaborate again and further, and this was an opportunity to do so. And from there, who doesn't want to be in this movie with Julia Roberts? Mahershala came on board and really served as a strong anchor on the other side from the other family. Ethan and Julia have known each other for a long time, had always wanted to be reunited on screen, and that became a natural and obvious pairing. There's great chemistry there, and you can really feel their years of true relationship and friendship underneath their performances. Myha'la was a gift and a surprise, and we'd all been fans of hers from industry and were thrilled when she was available. And so we just built the cast piece by piece. It's small but mighty. We're thrilled with it.
It was as simple as get the best people in Hollywood, and it happened. I lucked out. I got like basically a dream cast that I think any director would love to have. And then as a director, your job when you get such a powerful cast like that is just try and get out of their way.
It's a dream cast. I'm Julia Roberts' producer, so we started there. And truthfully, you know, Mahershala was just, he embodies that character. He just has that wisdom and that soul, and we just knew he'd be incredible. And we were so lucky to get all of our cast members, but each one of them really related so much and so deeply to their character that it truthfully felt like a family.
Sam and Julia approached me about the role. I love the story, I love the character, and I just love the idea of just having the opportunity to work with Julia and Ethan at the time. Myha'la came on later, but when I found out who was already involved, I was already really excited to be a part of it.
I sent in a tape, and I had known Sam, we had known of each other previously, and I have always been a fan of his work. And of course then when I saw who was going to be in it, it was like I must be in this film. To prepare, really, Sam, because this role is different than the film, he was like super down to collaborate with me in terms of like who she is and he really was like, bring as much of yourself to this as you can and are willing to.
I was very lucky to find that Archie is just kind of me, you know, so I didn't have to do much work. It's just a bit of a less savory character, but overall just a normal guy.
I auditioned, and they called me back and said that they wanted me to be in the film, and I was ecstatic.
If you're going to have performers of this caliber, you're so lucky. And so the experience of having to trust this material that was so close to me, to these professionals, it was so easy. Julia Roberts, Ethan Hawke, Mahershala Ali, I mean, these guys are the best at what they do, so what could be better?
There's a couple scenes I really enjoyed. I loved working with Julia on the dancing scene, even though it was like really difficult in a weird way. But I also loved working with Ethan and Kevin quite a bit on the scene later on in the film.
My favorite scene probably the scene with me and Julia in a cabin and we're yelling at each other. That was really fun.
I had one very long scene, about, I don't know, it's like 10 pages or something like that. And the scene was with Ethan and Mahershala. And, you know, they're both actors that I just so admire. And neither one of them had I gotten an opportunity to work with before. So it was fun. It was always as though we were doing our own little play, you know, because we just do this scene over and over again. And I loved it.
I hope that people begin to really reconsider our relationship with technology. And also just really reconsider or take time to consider what really matters. If things were to go bad or go wrong, like what are the things that are really important to us, and to really begin to invest more energy and time in those things, the things that matter.
I think they'll really reflect on, our use of technology in the world, and also trust as a whole, and what it means to trust people, and what it means to really stick together with people and create bonds.
It's a warning, you know. It's a really important thing that we all need to think about in terms of our relationship to technology, to each other, to nature. I think it's something we all need to walk away really thinking hard about.
I hope that they take away, the humanity within the story and the way that these people who have such different backgrounds and come from different places and really find a way to come together in the worst of times.
Conversation. I mean, the thing about our ending is that it's sort of open for interpretation, and I love those kinds of movies where you leave the theater and you can find a coffee shop and spend 2 hours debating what it all meant, and that's really what I want. I want people. I want it to provoke conversation and people to get into, into debates about what it all meant.
How long do you think that you could survive without the internet?
Oh, months.
Oh, years. I mean, you're talking.
I'm sorry, months.
Yeah. I would be hugely relieved.
Yes.
As long as everybody else wasn't using
But
it.
I think everybody would be secretly relieved.
I think so too.
Yeah.
If you had the internet and I didn't, I'd be grouchy. But if we both didn't have the internet, I'd be like, that's fine.
I heard that. No one could watch Tiny Mike then, but that's all right.
Yeah, okay.
That's all right. For Julia, how's Amanda different than any other character you've played before?
Well, everybody seems to think she's kind of a bitch.
And I like that about her.
So, there's that.
I think she's great. She stands her ground, defends her family.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic.
But she's kind of a bitch. I am as well. You know what makes her great? It's her sweet husband.
It's so true. Well, thank you for saying that.
Well, so Clay's a media studies professor. If you were a media studies professor, what are 3 films that you would have as required viewing?
Required viewing?
Yeah.
Well, I'd have to go with the Leave the World Behind theme, and I'd go 7 Days in May. I would go, which is, all about it's a great Burt Lancaster performance, unbelievable. And I would go On the Beach, the other nuclear, back in the 50s they were scared of the nuclear bomb. And then I would go.
Still scared of it.
I know. And I'd go the new Station 11. I like that show. And I think that I would like to juxtapose those 3.
I love that.
For a media studies program.
Hawke is the only person who could have answered that question.
Would you audit the class?
No.
She wouldn't audit it. She'd help me design it.